I'm Lisa, and thank you for watching part 2 of my ghost story series. I hope you guys like the first one, and this one is going to be even better in my opinion. Sorry I look a mess, but I just got off of work and threw my hair down, threw on a different shirt, and what can you do? I've been wanting to make this video for the past week now, and figured there ain't a better day than today. Today is a really exciting day for us because we're hopefully closing on our first home, so I'm super excited about that. So my next paranormal story takes place between February or March of 2011 through to about February-March of 2012. Living at home with my parents just wasn't an option anymore. We just were fighting way too much, and I felt it was time for me and Matt to get our own place. Things were getting serious between us, so we started looking, and we ended up renting a apartment in town. It was a big old house in town with a beautiful red door. I fell in love with that red door as soon as I seen it. And it was a house that was 2 stories, but they had it like separated off into like 4 different apartments, and ours was through the front red door, and you just went clear up the stairs, and the whole front half was our apartment. Okay, so at the time, I was really obsessed with like old historic homes, and with this being a historic home, I loved it. Like, loved the big red door. Our apartment had high ceilings, and it was, our bedroom was in the front, and then there was our living room, which was huge. There was a spare bedroom, a really small kitchen, a laundry room, and 1 bathroom. And there was a, I don't know, a garage type thing, but it was really old, like made out of brick, like the house. And you couldn't go in the garage. It was like separated from the house. It was behind the house. And in the window it said that it was a part of the Underground Railroad, which I love because, you know, anything with history, I loved it. So another cool thing we seen was we didn't notice it at first when we moved in, but when you walk through the red door, there was kind of like the entryway and the stairs, and under the stairs looked like a really old vent, but it wasn't a normal vent. It was a when you look closely, around the vent where the wall is was a secret door that you could open up and go under, and I'm pretty sure that was kind of like another part of the Underground Railroad thing, since the garage was a part of it. I think that you could like go in the secret door, and it would take you probably to a crawl space that would take you down to the basement of it. So it was just really like historic, really old, like I'm talking like 1900s type old house. And I got really obsessed from the moment we walked in with, like, I just had to know who lived in the house. I had to know. I don't know why, but it's like I became infatuated with knowing the history of the house. So I got on one of those ancestry sites in order to look up previous owners that lived in the house. And it's just like I couldn't stop until I found out what I needed to find out, you know, a name for who the house probably originally was owned by. And when I say I was obsessed, I mean I was obsessed. Like, I would come home from work, and the first thing I would do was get on the computer, see if I could find any other documentation online of who originally lived in this house, you know, like any facts I could find about it. And it took me a good few months, probably the first 6 months that we lived there, to find out that it was a lawyer or a judge, or he might have been a lawyer but became a judge, and his whole family lived in the house. And I hadn't told my husband the name that I found. And the creepy part was when I found out, I got so excited, and Matt, my husband, was in the kitchen, and I was like, I finally found out like who owned this house. And I was telling him like the creepy thing is there's a cemetery in town that's really big and beautiful up on a hill, and we would always, when my mom took me for just random rides, just to drive around, we'd go up in that cemetery because it's so big and it overlooks the whole town. But I remember seeing a stone that had this person's name on it, or their last name. Because I remember this because driving around the cemetery, I always thought it was funny. There was a headstone with the name Stone on it because it's a stone that says Stone. And my husband made a remark that was something to the fact of, oh, well, Benny's gonna get you. And I was like, no freaking way. I didn't tell you what his first name was. What made you say Benny or Ben? He was like, I don't know. That's the first thing that came to mind. I was like, Matt. The guy's name was Benjamin Stone. So that really, like, kind of creeped me out. Because, like, he could have used any name. Like, oh, Bob's coming to get you, anything. But he chose Benny. We don't know any Bennies. We don't have anyone in the family named Benjamin or Ben. But that's the name that he chose. And he hadn't looked on my computer. He had no clue what the guy's name was. I hadn't told him yet. So, what are the odds that he spits out the name Ben? So, little things would happen. I think that, like, contributed to my obsession of having to know, like, there's obviously spirits here. Who are they? One of the first incidences we had was, I had sat a empty bowl with a spoon in it on our sectional. Our couch was a sectional. And, I'd eaten probably either ramen noodles, because, we had just moved out on our own, so we lived off ramen noodles for quite a while. Or it was ice cream or something like that. But I had eaten it all and was feeling lazy and didn't feel like taking it into the kitchen, so I just sat it on the sectional and stayed out there next to it for hours before I went to bed. This, me getting up and down didn't affect the bowl moving. It stayed where it was at, didn't make a peep. As soon as we go to bed, hours later, with the bowl and the spoon still on the couch, as soon as we lay down, we turn off the lights, we lay down, it's dead silent. And we hear a ding. And me and my husband just look at each other like, what the hell was that? Like, nothing. There's nothing that could have made that noise. So Matt finally gets up to go investigate, since we live in town, making sure no one's trying to get in through a window, because our bathroom was connected to like an emergency exit stairs, where we could go out our window there and down if we needed to. And he doesn't get any further than he looks all around and there's no one in there. And then he comes back and he's like, hang on, let me try this and you tell me if it's a sound we heard. And I hear the same ding. And I'm like, yeah, that was it. What the hell is that? And he was like, I barely lifted up the spoon out of that bowl and let it go. So, kind of creeped us out, because that bowl had been sitting there with that spoon in it for hours, with me getting up and up and down off the couch, and it didn't move. But the moment we go to bed and lay down and are under the covers and it's silent, that spoon moves. So that was the first creepy thing that happened there. Okay, so there was also an attic. And the stairs that led to our apartment, there was a landing, and then there were stairs that went up to the attic. But we were told from the moment we looked at the place, before even signing, that that attic door was locked because the woman that actually owns this house went through a divorce or something, and ended up making the house into apartments, and some of her stuff is still up there. That's why it remained locked. So we didn't really care. You know, he even demonstrated for us that it's locked. And I'm sure that other apartments had an access to it as well, and theirs were locked as well. But we would hear footsteps above in the attic. So obviously we'd get curious, and I'd make Matt, I was curious, but I made Matt be the one to go up there and check, and the door isn't locked anymore. So we took the opportunity to go up there, and there was like a really old chest. Okay. There was like a really old chest made out of wood. There was a lot of like really old historical stuff that I thought was awesome. But we didn't touch anything. There was also some lamps that weren't as old that I knew probably belonged to the woman that actually owns the house. We just kind of like looked around just to be nosy, since we had never been up there before. And a couple months later, we ended up having to buy window air conditioners because there was no air conditioning to the apartment, and it was getting extremely hot. And Matt made a comment, you know, that if there had been some air conditioners upstairs, we would have just used what was up there, because who would have known, since no one has access to that. And so we bought some, and then we kept hearing the walking upstairs in the attic. So we would go up there periodically just to check. And one time we checked, and the door was open, and the door would go from being unlocked to locked, whatever it felt like doing. And one of the times that Matt went up there to check, it was unlocked, and he went to go open the door, and there was something in his way that he had to push out of his way, and it was 2 window air conditioners. Now, it was kind of weird. Like, we had just bought window air conditioners, talked about how if there was some up there, we would have snuck and used them because, you know, it's a pain in the butt buying them, especially not knowing if you're going to continue to need them if we were to go somewhere else and rent. There weren't any up there the other times that we went up there, and then just out of nowhere, there was 2 of them blocking the doorway. So, I don't know. Could have been that someone else had access to it and was putting crap up there. But we heard walking going on up there all hours of the day and all hours of the night, so I don't know. We also heard walking going on the landing where our apartment was. And like the stairs to our apartment, the only one using those stairs was our apartment. Like, it was closed off to everybody else. You just walked in and walked on up to the actual living area, and no one else had access to it. So it's not like other people that were living in the house, you know, renting one of the other apartments, was walking around and we heard them, because it was literally on our level outside the door, and no one else was out there. We checked multiple times. So we heard, you know, the phantom footsteps. Wasn't that bad. Every now and then, if there were dishes in the sink, we'd hear them clink and clank, and we just kind of brush it off as, oh, it's the spirits that are here. Not that bad. Now, we only stayed there for a year because, for one, it was hot as balls there during the summer, and the window air conditioners really didn't help at all from where it was. They had such high ceilings that it didn't cool it down at all. And we had two of them. We had one in the bedroom and one in the living room. Whatever. I wanted to move into a nicer apartment that had air conditioning available. Plus, like, all the little walking around and little noises. Like, there were times that I was afraid to go to sleep, not because I felt threatened, but just I kept hearing things and I was just done with it. You know, I knew who it probably was, you know, the Stone family that lived there. I didn't feel threatened, really. It was just knowing that they were always there, always hearing noises. I just wanted to go somewhere where I wouldn't have to deal with that. It was draining, almost. So we started packing. We already had, you know, we were moving in less than a week, and I had a mason jar on top of the refrigerator in the kitchen. I was packing up pots and pans and all the kitchen supplies because we were moving in just a few days, and I hadn't hit the fridge. I was nowhere near the fridge. The mason jar was on top of the fridge far enough to where it shouldn't have fell, it couldn't have fell, but I'm telling you, it fell. I had the mason jar sitting not on the edge, on the top of the refrigerator. I had it sitting to where there was no freaking possible way it could have fell unless someone knocked into it good. I wasn't even near the fridge. I didn't touch the fridge. I was putting plates or something in a box, leaning over, and the mason jar went from on top of the fridge, flew down, and like crashed right next to me. Now, my thing is that if it was going to fall without even being hit, then it should have fell straight down onto the ground next to the fridge. It didn't. The way it fell was like someone smacked it so that it would fall, and it damn near hit me in the freaking head. That's when I knew that it was time to go. I don't think it was evil. I think that, in my opinion, if you're a spirit in a home, they obviously wanted me to know who they were, to know their story, because it's their home. Out of respect, I wanted to know who they were. And I showed them respect, and I'm probably the only person that showed them respect, that, you know, this was their home. It'll probably always be their home. Yes, I know I'm pretty much intruding, but, you know, I think that they were just upset that I was leaving because they had this attachment or whatever. I took the time to find out who they were, but I don't think they liked that I was leaving because, kid you not, that mason jar that was on top of the fridge fell down like it was thrown at me. And the mason jar didn't even break. That's how crazy it was. Like, I was expecting it to bust because it fell down so hard, but it didn't. So after that happened, I was like, peace, you know. See you guys. Have fun with the next tenants. I'm out. That was the last straw. And after that, we moved into an apartment that was brand new. Nothing paranormal happened. Nothing like attached itself and came with us. So I was glad to get out. But at the same time, like, even now, and we've been moved out of there for years, I still, like, every time we pass, I'm like, you know, they're there. Benjamin Stone family. I wonder if, you know, I always wonder, like, if the tenants that are in there now have the same stuff going on that happened to me. Could be not. Maybe I'm just more open from where I've had stuff happen to me since I was young. Hard to say. So, I had Paranormal Researcher send me a comment on my last video asking a few questions they wanted me to answer for them. Okay, so the first question was, do I have any experience with dark spirits? And I'm gonna say no. like I said, I did have whatever spirit was in our apartment chuck a mason jar at me, but I don't think they are evil or dark. I think that they were just upset because I'm probably the only person who has taken the time to know who was there, and I think there was like a connection there somehow. But I think it was just them being pissed off because I was leaving and they knew I was leaving. The second question was, have I ever noticed any unexplained scratches or claw marks? Thank freaking God, no. If that would ever happen, I would have freaked the fuck out. Pardon my language. So no to the scratches and claw marks, thankfully. I have seen many TV shows where that happens to people, and thank God hasn't happened to me. The only scratches or claw marks I get are from my 2 boxer girls. So definitely not paranormal. The third question is, have I had any dreams involving me being the subject of a ritual or dark figures? No. I have had some dreams where it's like, when I was in school, I would dream that I'm walking down a certain hallway and seeing certain classmates, and I notice what they're wearing, and it's just like a random dream like that. And then like I would go to school the next day or two, and I'd be walking, it'd be like deja vu, that's the word. I'd be walking down that same exact hallway, see the same exact people, they're wearing the same exact clothes, like it was just weird. I talked to my brother, and he said he's had dreams like that before too. But as far as like evil dreams or evil spirits, thankfully I haven't had to deal with that. Now, I hope you guys like this video. I love the unknown. Since us living in that apartment, nothing has happened. Thankfully, we've lived in 2 other apartments since then, including this one, and haven't had any odd goings on. But where we're getting ready to move to, that's a whole nother story. It's right next to where my parents live, so really close to where the original paranormal crap started. And there was an old lady that used to live in the house that's on the property, and friends of mine that lived in the house after she had to, the woman had to move to Florida with her son because she was so old she couldn't take care of herself. And some friends of mine lived at the house my senior year, and they claimed that like it just felt uneasy, like it felt like there was the old woman there because she had passed away down in Florida, but that was her home, so they think that her spirit had come back to be in that house. And they also thought that the spirit of her husband was there, and they felt like her spirit was kind of negative, like, don't touch my shit, this is my house, get out. But the husband, they kind of felt like his spirit was more nice and whatever. I've never experienced any paranormal stuff on that property so far. Like, the house has been abandoned for quite a while. It's in ruins, basically, because we tried to tear it down ourselves, and that didn't work out. And I'm pretty sure we need permits for that stuff, and we didn't do that. So anyways, now we're paying someone to tear the rest of that house down. So whether or not that stirs some shit up with us tearing the house down, I don't know. I will note that we sometimes have bonfires on that property since it's right next to my mom and dad's house, and they bought the property so that me and my husband could eventually buy it from them and live next to them, which is what we're doing. And at one point we were around the bonfire. It was quiet besides the fire. No one was talking. Everyone was around us that could have made a noise. Like, there was no one in the house, but we heard like footsteps and stuff, like, because there's debris in the house from where we tearing down walls, and you could like hear crackling and stuff going on in the house. But that was the only thing that we witnessed there. And it wasn't just me that heard it. It was like my other family members that lived around there. And there was no one in the house. So that might be another video when we get moved over there on whether or not we have anything going on the next property we're about to move on. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you like this. Leave me comments below if you have any questions. Please like and what am I thinking of? Subscribe. Yeah. Like, subscribe. Love you guys, and thank you for watching. Bye.